Cool. So, hi Jamie, how are you?
Hi Megan, I'm good. How are you? Good morning.
Yeah, good, thank you. It's a very rainy, bleak day.
Yeah.
So, don't know if it's the same with you.
It's authentic that I've got my tea ready.
I've actually just got hot water. Like I'm having caffeine overload at the moment.
Yeah.
Let's try a day without tea. But I've already failed. Whereabouts are you based?
So I'm in Guildford, and my placement hospital is the Royal Surrey, which is a really nice hospital to be in. It's quite a big training centre, so there's 3 STPs per year for our trust, which is really nice because it means we can kind of bounce things off of each other, and the years above we have just like a breadth of things to build on. And I did my undergrad here as well, so yeah, I love being here because I know the area. When I moved back, I knew the area and the hospital. I actually did a placement at the hospital before starting the STP, but actually we can move on to that later when it comes to like experience and whatnot.
That's so good. It's so nice, especially at the moment, for you to be able to move to a place you already know, so you feel a little less like isolated.
Yeah, it was huge. It really was, and it meant like I knew people in the area. And because of how the application works, I was worried I was going to get put somewhere where I'd be like a 3-hour drive from my nearest friends or something. So I was so grateful to get placed here.
Was it your first choice?
It was my 4th choice actually, but I had like 27 something choices because I knew I wanted to do the STP, and so I was like, wherever I get put, I'll take it. So it wasn't a case of I want to go this place specifically. So if it's my choice, I ranked every single place you could have gone in order, in the hope I got given somewhere. And so I had the London hospitals as my first choices, just because I wanted to move to London area. And then honestly, when I got given, so Guildford was my 4th choice, and when I got offered it, I was actually really, really happy. I think after the year we'd had, I was going somewhere that I knew, and with like having the opportunity to have friends nearby and everything.
Yeah, I was the same. I think Birmingham was my 4th, but I am actually really happy that I ended up here. I think one of the options was like Salisbury, and I didn't even know how to say it when I saw it on the list.
Oh, I'm from near Salisbury. Were you going to call it Salisbury or something?
Yeah, that is exactly what I called it. My dad was like, where? But I think it was good. I'm from the Midlands. I'm from Leicester, so Birmingham wasn't like a million miles away.
Yeah.
In the end, there are so many trainees for medical physics. It always like shocks me.
Just at King's, I think we have. I think we have 70 or something across the country.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're quite a big cohort.
Oh, what? That's all in first?
All in first year, yeah.
That's mad.
Do you not have that many? How many do you have?
I think we have like 25 across the country. And to be fair, that's in genomics. So probably when you add that with cancer genomics, there's more of us. But 70 is crazy. It must be quite nice because I'm guessing you have like a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Like fire questions out to other people to see if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, it was good during the King stuff when it was all online and everything.
That's cool. So,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, it was just good because it was like I think everyone struggled a little bit with the movement to online lectures. It certainly had its benefits. Like I got to do. I would have had to commute into London, which wouldn't have necessarily been a negative thing. I think it would have been quite fun, but it came with the like downside of having to spend 3 months like paying to commute to London and like everything that comes along with that. And so it was a lot cheaper and more convenient to be online.
Especially during the pandemic, like.
Yeah, I think it's better for peace of mind as well for a lot of people.
So what was your background before the STP? Like, what did you do at uni and stuff?
So I started my undergrad in 2014 at the University of Surrey. That was a bachelor's in just straight physics because I left school not knowing what I wanted to do, but I knew I was good at physics. and I knew physics was quite like a malleable degree, so I was like, I'll do this, and then I'll see where it takes me. And it wasn't until second year when so the university survey is quite big on placement years, and they kind of encourage everyone to do one. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I saw a like an ad for a placement student in radiation protection, which is one of the rotations that you do on the STP at the Royal Surrey. So I went to this talk about the radiation protection placement. I found it really interesting, and it's where I'm placed at now in my rotations, actually. So it's gone full circle, really. But for me personally, I was wondering, is there something a physicist can do in a hospital that has more direct link to patients, and more like a more one-on-one, face-to-face contact with patients? And so I found out that there's a department called nuclear medicine, which I hadn't heard of before that day. And they didn't have a placement student at that time, but I basically went to them and said, "Do you want one?" And we had some talks over a few months, and then I ended up doing a placement in nuclear medicine at the Royal Surrey. Which, to give like a short, brief overview for those who don't know, it's the treatment and diagnosis of disease with radioactive elements. So there's a lot of radiographers in nuclear medicine that will do like some scans with different gamma emitting radionuclides, and then you image that with a gamma camera. So you might, for instance, be looking for someone who has like secondary cancer on their bones or something, and because cancers on the bones, they have a faster metabolism than normal bone. So you can inject them with a radionuclide that has a tendency to go towards areas of fast metabolism in the bone, and then image them. And then so you'll get this image of the patient where you'll have these hot spots where these lesions are in the bone. So that's just an example of the kind of thing that you can do there. And then, so I did a placement, and then I went back to do my final year at uni. I took 2 years out. 1 year, I managed to go traveling right before 2020 started. I picked the perfect year to go do it. And then I timed my trip back because I knew I wanted to do the STP from when I graduated, but I didn't get back from my trip until October of 2019. And so that meant that I'd missed the intake for that year. And I effectively just had to wait a year to do the rounds for the application from January to start in September of last year. But I did that and thankfully got on. And then I've just done my 3 months at King's and then started my rotations, and now I'm here.
That's cool. So do you think the placement had a big effect on you getting in first time? Because it's really impressive that anyone gets in first time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it made a humongous difference. I know of people that I've met in the trust who are doing the STP and have done the STP that they didn't get onto their third or fourth time. And so that's certainly something I was really, really worried about when I was applying, that it was going to take a really long time to get onto the course. But I think the placement was instrumental in it, because I know some people, I think with medical physics, you get on with a bachelor's and some experience, or a master's and no experience. I think that's kind of your two options. That's not to say that people haven't applied and got on with a bachelor's, but I think with the competition ratio, any and all experience you can get in your favor is really helpful. And perhaps not in these January 2021 times, but I know a lot of host departments are quite happy to host prospective STPs for like a week. So you can get in contact with your nearest medical physics department, then ask, hey, can I come in for a few days a week just to kind of get some experience and see what things like in the department. I think you should go for it. And you can't, there's nothing to lose really. And it makes new contacts. Yeah.
Good to just put yourself out there as well. Especially with you now working at the same trust. So did you like recognise or interview with anyone that you know?
Yeah. So that's another thing. I thought we were lucky to not have the round robin interview style, the one in Birmingham. because I was also nervous for that, because it seemed really intense from what I'd learned. And then obviously because we couldn't do that, we switched to interviews with individual trusts, which I gather is what they're doing this year as well. Applications, and it was a lot better. So I knew two of the three people on the panel I knew, and I think it was a lot less stressful that way. But that was just, I think I was just lucky. And I think more in general, it's a lot less stressful to do it that way.
Definitely. I'm so grateful that I never had to go through the original process. I think if I'd gone through that, like, stations, I'd never apply again. Just stress. That's good. Did you just apply for medical physics, or did you apply for anything else as well?
Yeah, there aren't too many that similar to medical physics. Perhaps like clinical engineering is probably one of the most near, but medical physics, well, I mean, I was looking basically to go into what I done a placement in because I really loved it, and so there wasn't really a substitute for me, which is why I chose like 27 different options going down the list
to get them to like far-flung places wherever.
Yeah.
That's good. So you said there are 3 other trainees in your year with you. Have you like met them much whilst you've been at uni, or?
Yeah, so during the first few weeks, funny enough, I knew them both already.
That's good.
Because they were both also placement students in different years at the Royal Surrey. So when we were doing like the King stuff as a substitute for kind of not being able to go to lectures together, we'd have either like a Teams meeting every now and then to have a chat about different coursework or different content, or we'd like grab a coffee or something somewhere while we could, and that was really good. I think everyone is a real good ethos, I think, between all the STPs for what I can speak from my trust. Everyone's really keen to help each other out, and I've had some unbelievable support from some of the STPs above me in terms of guidance, because the last 2 weeks is when I've been starting to write competencies, and it's a very daunting task, I think, to begin with, when you look at this massive long list of things and you're not really sure how you're meant to take any of that off. But the other STPs have been brilliant we're just having like little meetings, and they've been talking to me like, you should start with this, or this is how you start this, and get in touch with this person. So everyone's been really, 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 really nice.
Yeah, I definitely think that, as far as I can tell, has been true for everyone. Like in our trust, I think it was either the first day or maybe like a couple of days in, one of the third years was like, let's all go for lunch together. So it was like all 12, 13 of the STPs that I trust, and it was really nice. And whenever I've got an email and I send it to one of them, I'm like, this must be so far down your priority list right now, but they're always so nice to like help you out with anything. That's good. So you mentioned that you've been at uni for 3 months, which is the first I've heard of anyone doing that. So how's it been?
I really liked it. It was good to keep it kind of segmented, and it meant I could devote all my time to the uni work. So just for a bit of context, so do you start for a little bit and have to juggle it, or how does it work for you?
So we started at the start of September, and we had a month of just being in the trust, so it's quite nice. Like, got our bearings, started on some of the like infection control competencies and stuff, and then all of October we were at uni, and then we were back in work for November, and then had like 3 days in December where we did the genetic counselling stuff.
Oh, fun.
I think we've got like a couple of weeks this year, but I'm not sure when.
Yeah, so it meant like, it felt like it was going from leaving uni to going straight back into uni, to be quite honest, because the people at the trust would like check in every now and then. We had meetings with our like training lead every week to check how we were getting on. But yeah, it just meant that you could really focus on that. And then now I finished the last bit of coursework a few days ago, which was such a relief to finally have that all finished. And it feels more like a step, I guess. Like I've jumped over the first hurdle now, and now it's really on to rotations. And I feel more in like a better mindset to kind of focus all my energy towards that.
Yeah, that is really nice, because I think with just having uni like a little bit more broken up, and then it's like there's an exam in January and then an exam in March and then one in May, I think I just lost all motivation when we went back to work to do the uni work. So now it's like we've got a few weeks between rotations. I'm just catching up on everything.
Yeah. Your video is frozen, by the way. I don't know if you could.
Oh, I can still see you. Sorry.
That's okay.
You just got a freeze frame of my face.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll restart. I don't know. This happened with Darius as well. And
You've got this like permanently surprised look.
Hopefully, I'm sure that looks fab. But it ended up recording all the way through, so fingers crossed it restarts as well. So what were you doing at uni?
So it was we had 3 modules. So we had introduction to healthcare science and research methods. So that was actually a really fun module because it was something that you wouldn't do in a physics degree. So we were learning all about anatomy, and like a lot as well, a lot really quickly. But having done, I did A-level biology, so that was quite fortunate. I think it would have been a real headache had you not done any sort of biology before, because it was going in lots and lots of content. But the best thing is that part wasn't examinable by an exam. It was just by some coursework. So I had some anatomy coursework to do, which meant there was kind of less stress about it. You didn't have to worry about understanding everything in perfect detail. It was more about, I think it gave you more interest and joy, that part of the module, which I really did, because I find biology really interesting. And then that module came along with some like research method type things. So using the statistical package SPSS, I don't know if you've used it.
No, I haven't had much background in statistics.
So we got to taught how to use that, which was actually a really good tool. I mean, obviously statistics, everyone groans a little bit when you hear statistics, but it was a really useful tool. And then some MATLAB, so some coding that we did, which I think is getting more and more important. I think certainly for physicists, like it is really useful to have a coding language under your belt for a range of things. And then we had the other 2 modules were Introduction to Medical Physics. So that was that module had a lot of content. So it was spanning everything from gamma cameras, ultrasound, MRI, CT, anything and everything that is included in medical physics. And so that was all the lectures were pre-recorded, which I found quite handy because it meant that if you didn't get something, you could pause and rewind. And then there was a Q&A session we had on Teams after, which let us have some time to ask questions to the lecturer if we needed to, which was really handy. And then the other module was, what was it called? Let me find it. Radiation physics for imaging and radiotherapy. So that was going more into the radiotherapy side. I haven't even spoken about the rotations yet, but I'm going to finish this first. So that goes more into depth on the radiotherapy side and the nuclear medicine and the kind of interactions of radiation with matter, be it biological matter or such. And so that's a really important module, and it's going a bit more into depth in some of the stuff we covered in medical physics.
Yeah. So we had like a professional practice bit of a module that we now have like an assignment on, which was a little bit more geared towards like the NHS values and constitution and stuff. Did you have that as well?
Oh, we did. Yes, yes, that was in the healthcare science module. It was like a
Okay.
1 day. It was a 1 day lecture. We had live lecture, and then we didn't have any coursework on it. It was just a sum up of the constitution and the values, which I think they ask you a lot about in the round robin interview.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to that stage.
Yeah. There was a whole station on it, wasn't there? But they still managed to fit enough into the like individual interviews as well.
Yeah.
So is it just medical physics trainees then, or do you have any of the ionizing radiation people in there as well with your uni stuff?
So they all fit into the group. So I noticed from applying that some like my center. So there was medical physics undefined, which is what I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through my rotations in radiation safety, imaging with non-ionizing radiation, so like ultrasound and MRI, imaging with ionizing radiation, X-ray, CT, etc., and then radiotherapy. So I know that there are some trusts that only take one trainee in that specific specialism.
Yeah.
And so, but the only difference is that we go through all of them and then pick a specialism depending on like what the trust needs and where they can fit us.
Yeah.
So I assume I couldn't speak. I don't know anyone that has done that path, but I would only assume you do the 3 months at King's, because there was those trainees at King's. So they do their 3 months and then go straight into their imaging with ionizing, for example.
Okay.
And then just keep doing that for the year.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's cool. So now you're into rotations. Which one have you started with?
I started in radiation protection, which is in my trust. They fit together the imaging with non-ionizing and radiation safety into one like grouped rotation. So normally they'd be 3 months each, but because of the way it works in this hospital, I'm doing 6 months in radiation protection, where I tick off all those competencies. And then I have radiotherapy after, and my imaging with ionizing rotation, which is the nuclear medicine part at the end. And it's been really good so far. My supervisor has been really, really helpful, because he was an STP a few years ago, so he knows what you have to do and what everything's like, and so he's been super supportive, setting me up to go out on surveys. So on my current rotation, a lot of it I just need to go see a lot of things. So I work from home when I don't need to be on site, but quite often there'll be stuff going on in the hospital where they'll be going and doing like all the quality checks on some of the X-ray, the ultrasound, for the Royal Surrey, and then also for a bunch of different sites, because this radiation protection service, it serves a really wide area across the country, of places that basically hire them to go do the testing on the X-ray equipment, etc., for them. So I went to Winchester on Monday to a BMI hospital to do some X-ray QC with someone. And then I've been to a few different hospitals in Guildford doing different bits. Then I'm going to go to Worthing on Friday. So actually this bit's really fun, because I get to travel a few different places for work, which at the moment, just any kind of change of scenery is really, really nice.
Yeah, definitely.
So that part's really, really good.
It's nice that you kind of get to see how different hospitals are set up as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it can feel like, even just talking to other genomics trainees, I kind of think that the way Birmingham do it must be the same for every trust, and it's really not. It's easy to kind of blinkers on.
You get this, you get this tunnel vision when you work just for one trust, I think, which is why the elective, I think, is really good. I'm really hoping that that things are back up and running by the time we get to do our electives. So I'm really looking forward to that.
What would you like to do? Have you had any ideas?
Yeah, I really want to go to New Zealand to do mine.
Wow.
I know people that go to Australia and that kind of area to do their electives. A lot of medical physicists migrate to Australia. and same with New Zealand, just because there's like a shortage basically.
Wow.
And so you get like fast tracked for a visa there. And I love New Zealand. And so I'd love to go do my elective there, partly because I'd be going to New Zealand, but also I'd be seeing how like nuclear medicine works in a completely different country with different legislation. I'm sure different therapies and different therapies that have been approved and different codes of practice. I think that'd be really fascinating, just to see how it goes on the other side of the world.
That does sound really interesting. Is that why you went traveling?
I went to kind of get a grasp on, because I hadn't been to Asia, I hadn't been to Oceania, I hadn't been to South America, and so I kind of went to get like a little whistle stop idea of the places that I really liked, and New Zealand was one of those places that I really liked. And so I think the idea of going to the elective is that it would be really useful, I think, for my opening up my breadth of knowledge a bit, the different kinds of things that are done. And also the elective, wherever you go, is really fantastic for making connections.
Definitely.
And like professional connections, and people you can contact in the future.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm looking forward. I hope that we are able to do it, because you just get more of a holistic view of where your specialism fits into medical care in general. So I think it would be really interesting to be able to do it. Cool. So I know you've only been there for like a few weeks, but what do you think your day-to-day life is going to be like moving forward?
I think it's going to vary quite a lot, because at the moment they're just trying to get me out to see as many things as I can as possible, because I have all these specialisms to do that rely on me seeing different things. And so at the moment I've just been set up with the competencies that don't require me to see something in particular. So just this morning I'm working on a dose audit. So I have all of the information from a bunch of studies from some mobile CT scanners that go around the country doing different different studies. And so I have all of the data they have for different types of studies, so if it's doing a head CT or a chest CT, and the doses that they gave during those procedures. And so there are dose limits that are set by the government in how much you can dose someone for a certain study. But then we have local dose limits. So the government limit will be up here, it'll be quite high. And then we'll set lower ones somewhere around here, because for our particular scanner, we can get the image that we want without dosing anywhere near that. So I'm looking at all their doses and checking that they are not exceeding their local DRLs, their local dose limits or the national dose limits. And that's been quite interesting. And I have found that one trailer is exceeding the national dose limits for only just, but for one study. But it's cool because this is what they do. So this is how you get the accountability, is that this is one of the services we do, is that we check these things, and then we open a conversation. We're saying, we need to have a review of the protocols, etc. And then so that's probably that's the more at home stuff. And then practically, so you'll go out and you'll do testing on anything to do with medical physics, which I think is really interesting, especially in the first rotation, because you see all these different things. You get to see how an MRI works in practice, and how you test these things to be sure they're working as you think they are. You do clinical placements, which aren't on at the moment, but it means that I get to go spend a few days in like an ultrasound clinic or an X-ray clinic, and I just see the kind of patients that go through. And I think it's really nice that I think the job is great, because I think you're getting paid to just go learn so much. So I just so a few days I get to go see different clinical stuff, and just stuff that you wouldn't normally get to see. It really broadens your knowledge a bit. So that's probably a good summation of what you do in radiation protection. And radiotherapy is you're helping with the treatment planning. So you'll have someone come in with breast cancer, whatever it may be. And the physicist's job is to mainly assist in the quality control of those radiotherapy machines and the treatment planning. So you simulate. So you have an image of the patient or where their tumor is, and you simulate the ways that you could treat this tumor. But while you maximize the dose to the tumor that you want to treat, and you minimize the dose that you give to the healthy tissue around it, which is really interesting. And then nuclear medicine is the most patient-facing of all of them. So you assist in some of the radioiodine treatments. So this is when you have patients with thyroid cancer, and they come in for this tablet of radioactive iodine that they ingest, and then it goes to their thyroid and destroys what's left of their cancerous thyroid. But that's super interesting because we have to keep them in special lead-lined rooms that only certain people are allowed to go into. And like, you bring them their food, and you do measurements each day to see how radioactive they still are.
Like a prison cell.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And then and then when they leave, you have to decontaminate the room. So it's proper Chernobyl style decontamination. And then you can, once you're satisfied it's decontaminated, you can hand it back to the hospital. So it's really interesting. And so every week there's like a quote unquote radiation incident in one of the rooms, and you have to go and decontaminate, which I just think is really cool, really interesting.
Yeah, I never would have thought about that needing to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot more patient facing than I thought it was going to be. I don't know, my preconceptions of medical physics was maybe being in the background and doing the analysis, and
and it certainly is for some specialisms. And there's a lot of work to be done there, but it can change from trust to trust. So there's another therapy with radium for treating bone metastases, and even in some trusts the physicists are the ones who do the injections. So it can be really patient facing in some places. And I think it's nice to see, because all of them of course contribute to patient care, but the thing I like about nuclear medicine is that you're directly seeing that and talking to people, and being in charge of therapies and whatnot. So I think it's a really nice place. Yeah.
It's nice for patients to see you as well, so they know you exist and you're instrumental in their treatment.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you have any like general or specialism specific like top tips or like advice at all?
Yeah. I think don't panic during the application, because I don't know about you, but those numerical and logical reasoning tests that I was sat on my sofa, and they have the little test, like the practice tests you can do, which I don't know if you did them, but they were really easy. So it was, they were super easy. And I was sat on my sofa, and if I was like, well, this is the practice test, I'm just going to sit and do the real test now. So I think this is going to be super duper easy. And I opened the test, and it was anything but. So I was having a massive panic that this one job that I'd wanted for this year, I'd messed up because I was sat on my sofa, not ready for this numerical reasoning test. And the same for the logical reasoning. So my advice would be, the tests are really hard. Don't worry about it, because this could be complete hearsay, but I've heard that they get harder if you answer questions correctly.
They do. They've actually changed the tests for this year, which I think is so good, because I've not a single person that felt like they went well.
Yeah.
So they did increase the difficulty. If you carried on getting questions right, the questions got harder. If you were getting questions wrong, the questions got easier. But they've changed them to situational judgment tests now.
So that sounds very good.
Yeah, more based to the person's specification. I don't know about you, maybe it is a little bit more in like the mathsy, physicsy side of things, but I have not come across a part of my training where I would need to find out or need to do a sum in 60 seconds.
Mm.
Pick it out of like 30
Yeah.
different options.
It's a very ridiculous test for like the purpose, I think. But no, that's I'm so glad to hear that it's not happening this year.
Yeah, definitely.
What other advice? I would say definitely get stuck in. Don't worry about bothering people effectively, because your job is to learn. And don't worry to message someone being like, I don't get this. Can you explain this to me? And you speak to the other trainees and you can say, well, what did you do for this? Because I just don't get it. A little bit easier for me because I know some of the people in the department. But effectively, what I keep thinking is my job is to bother these people with my questions because my job is to learn. So first and foremost, your job, you are there to learn. So make sure you get as much out of that experience as you can, because it's only going to help you. Yeah,
especially like these are 3 years where you can dedicate your time to learning about things. So you might as well just bug people and get that insight to things, so that once you've qualified, you're still obviously going to be learning, but you can go into it a little bit more confident because you know you've asked the questions that you were unsure of.
Yeah. I think it's like a big step in as well, like your personal growth is that when you can grow past being worried about like bothering people with questions and just having that confidence to kind of go for it. And I think it benefits you so much.
I would have never done this a year ago, but now I'm just like, let's find out what people are doing, bother people, like even other trainees. And it's important to think, so at uni, it's more of like you want to get the best grade, and now it's like, it doesn't matter if you don't look like you understand everything, as long as you do understand it by the end.
Yeah, 100%.
Fab. So thank you very much for taking part in this.
You're welcome. Thanks, Meg. It's really good idea.
Thank you. And I hope the rest of your rainy, what day is it today? Wednesday goes well.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.